Blessing and limping. As the night wears on in our story, and the stranger sees that Jacob has no intention of giving up, he strikes Jacob on the hip socket, dislocating his hip and causing him to limp. In the magnificent defeat, a beautiful sermon on this story, Frederick Buechner describes the pivotal moment like this. All the night through, they struggle in silence until just before morning, when it looks as though a miracle might happen. Jacob is winning. The stranger cries out to be set free before the sun rises. Then suddenly, all is reversed, Buechner continues. He merely touches the hollow of Jacob's thigh, and in a moment, Jacob is lying there crippled and helpless. The sense we have, which Jacob must have had, that the whole battle was from the beginning fated to end this way, that the stranger had simply held back until now, letting Jacob exert all his strength and almost win, so that when he was defeated, he would know that he was truly defeated, so that he would know that not all the shrewdness, will or brute force that he could muster were all of that not enough to get this. Jacob will not release his grip, only now it's a grip not of violence but of need, like the grip of a drowning man. Buechner wrote that. Powerful words. You know, we live in a culture that celebrates success and scorns defeat. But sometimes defeat is mercy. Defeat is what saves us. What I carry away from the story of Jacob's wounding is the troubling but solid truth that blessing and bruising, limping, are not mutually exclusive in the realm of God. We can limp and prevail at the same time. We can experience healing in our brokenness. If I want to engage with God, then I must expect that I'll be changed in the process. And it's not always comfortable or easy to be changed. I don't get to say, I want the blessing but not the limp. Sometimes the blessing is the limp. The stranger then tells Jacob, "You shall no longer be called Jacob. You shall be called Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans and have prevailed." I don't know about you, but this moment in the story makes me, cringe and even kind of chuckle at the same time. A new name that essentially guarantees him a lifetime of holy struggle. You shall be called Israel, meaning you shall spend the rest of your life, your limping life, wrestling with God, battling with God, struggling with God. Say goodbye to the trickster. From here on out, you are the wrestler. What sort of blessing is that? Wrestling, as it turns out, is not an irreverent thing, because it's the opposite of apathy, the opposite of resignation, of quitting, the opposite of complacency. To fight is to stay close, to keep my arms wrapped tight. Fighting means I haven't walked away from God, and God hasn't walked away from me. It means we both have skin left in the game. This is both a challenge and an invitation to you and me, to any of us who think our relationship with God has to be smooth and pretty all the time. It doesn't. The God of Jacob delights in those who strive with him, who wrestle with him. The opposite of loving God isn't fighting him. The opposite of loving God is not caring enough to fight. So don't worry if you're wrestling with God during these days. Wrestling is our best protection against spiritual apathy. Wrestling keeps God relevant in our lives. It keeps him from being only a dusty relic that we stick up on the shelf or assign to Sunday mornings only. To wrestle with God is to insist that God matters in my life every day. As the story goes, the sun comes up and it becomes Jacob's turn to rename the place of his wounding. He calls the muddy wrestling ring Peniel, saying, I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is preserved. Today, I hope you understand that it's important to remember and to name the places where God shows up for you and contends with you, with us. These Peniels where God meets us in the dark. These places where we lose and find our true names, our identity. These places where mystery wrestles us towards salvation. These places where we exhaust our own strength and finally collapse into God's strength. May today be such a holy place. May we be brave in these places over and over again, because God is in them, ever ready to meet us. Stay safe, stay well, stay connected with God and one another as you are able, and stay faithful. Blessings.